This video is all about Dutching correct scores on Betfair. Not just Dutching, but also trading the correct scores in play as well. This is one of the more advanced, but also more lucrative and profitable ways to trade football on Betfair. And this video is going to give you a good introduction into this world. So coming up in this video, I'm going to be explaining what Dutching is and then show you how you'd go about Dutching the correct score market. I'm going to show you a very simple way to do that as well. And also going to show you then how to Dutch it and actually trade it in play. I'm also then obviously going to show you what I feel is the best way to Dutch and trade the correct score market on Betfair. I'm also going to give you tips on how you go about planning those trades. I'm going to give you some live trading demonstrations of a whole variety of different strategies and approaches for this market as well. And then I'm going to give you some typical newbie mistakes to avoid and some extra tips as well. There is a lot to sink your teeth into. You are really in for a treat. And for those who stay to the end, if you haven't yet got this, I will let you know how you can download my correct score market guide for free. If you're going to be trading correct scores on Betfair, you're definitely going to need this. And it's absolutely free. I'll tell you how you can download that right at the end. Anyway, I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. So if you have no idea what Dutching is, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what it actually is and how it is relevant to the correct score market. Now, funnily enough, Dutching actually has nothing to do with the country of Netherlands like I first imagined myself. The roots of Dutching can actually be found somewhere you least expected, and that was in the Bronx in New York City, when a guy who went by the name of Dutch Schultz started using a Dutching system, obviously named after him, to profit from horse racing. He was backing several horses and making a profit. He was actually part of the mafia, had a pretty colorful life apart from winning money on the horses, but that is another story for another day. And Wikipedia has this definition for what Dutching is. It is sharing the risk of losing across a number of runners by backing more than one selection or in a race or event. And with correct scores in football, that would mean we're going to be backing more than one correct score. I mean, as we all know, just predicting the actual correct score can be quite tricky. But if we cover multiple correct scores, then we stand a bigger chance of profiting. So if we covered the 2-0, we might also want to cover a 1-0, a 2-1, a 3-0, and we would calculate it so that we're going to win the same amount no matter which of those score lines come in. Now, I have included a link to a blog post in the description of this, which is going to give you a free Dutching calculator, so you can play around with that and plan some Dutches as well. But I'm also going to quickly show you how you can Dutch on the Betfair interface without needing a calculator at all. Not many people know this, so let me quickly show you. So this is Fulham against Manchester United from the English Premier League, and I'm going to give you a quick demo to show you how you'd go about Dutching the correct score market. So the first thing you want to get in mind is some sort of target scoreline. You're going to get this from some sort of pre-match research or just your own general football knowledge, and you're going to back the target scoreline, but you're also going to back some scorelines around that scoreline as well. So in this case, if we thought that Man United were going to win this match 2-0, we would back 2-0 to Man United, but we'd also cover, say, the 1-0, we'd want to cover the 3-0, and we'd probably want to cover the 2-1 as well. And then we've got 4 score lines backed around there. 2-0 is our target, but just in case they don't quite make the 2-0, we've got 1-0, and then if they do better than the 2-0, we've got the 3-0, and then we've got the 2-1 covered as well. Now, like I said, there is a link in the description to the blog post which has a Dutching calculator on it and all the other links that you need. So if you do want to check that out, that is there for you. But I'm going to show you that you don't actually need a Dutching calculator to Dutch on Betfair. And it surprises me that not many people know about this. Now, if I wanted to Dutch these 4 score lines, yeah, usually I'd have to use a calculator and I'd have to try and figure out how to have the same outcome, the same profit, no matter which of these score lines came in. But it's very simple to do this on Betfair. You click on this button here, stake, you see that? And then I'm going to use a £100 stake to do this, right? So I'll just click £100 in there, then I click OK, and then look at the correct score market. You can see that it's automatically done all the calculations for me. So You don't really need a Dutching calculator, although there is one in the description. If you wanted to try an experiment with some combinations in your own time, then that's what it's there for. But if you just wanted to get in the market Dutching on Betfair, then that's a simple way of doing it. Click on stake, enter your stake, and it will do the calculation. So now you can see in this match here, Fulham against Man United, I'm putting £100 stake in the market. If Man United win 1-0, I win 175. Same for the 0-2, the 0-3, and the 2-1. So £100 stake is going to return 175 if one of those outcomes comes in. And I could take more cover, and I see a lot of people do this. So we could take cover on 3-1. We could also take cover on 0-0 as well. Could take cover on 0-0 just in case we were scared that this match might end in a 0-0, and then do it again. Put in £100. And then we can see what the combination is. And you can see here if the 0-0 comes in, we would stand to make £105 and £105 over all of those. I mean, the more score lines you cover, obviously the lower and lower your profit goes. So let's say we wanted to cover 1-0 to Fulham as well and a 1-1 because we just were worried that that Man United might win, but it might be a draw and Fulham might win as well. I mean, who knows? But we could do that as well. £100 stake, let's put it in. And if any of those score lines comes up, all these score lines here, then we're going to stand to make £58. And we're covered over a few different options there. So if it is a draw, a 0-0 or a 1-1, we're going to win. If Fulham win it 1-0, we're going to win. If Man United win on one of these score lines, then we're going to win as well. So you kind of get the idea of how Dutching works. And as I've just shown you, the more score lines you cover, the lower your profit is. So let me just cover a few more, and then we'll quickly demonstrate that. So as you see, I don't know how many scorelines I've covered right there. We couldn't even get money on that 3-0. But as you can see now, we've covered a lot of scorelines, and our return would be the £31 on those scorelines. And obviously, the less scorelines you cover, the better. So if we thought our target scoreline was 2-0 to Man United, but it could be tight, and maybe it's only a 1-0, and we split it like that using £100 stake, you can see the returns are much nicer there. I mean, just on the 1-0 and 2-0, £425. So there is a lot to take in, but that's basically how you Dutch the market. Very, very simple. And like I said, it does surprise me how many people haven't noticed that you just back in, cover in whatever score lines you want, and it will do the calculations for you. £100 stake, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0 would return me £288 if one of those score lines comes in. So just a quick demo of how you would Dutch on the correct score market. And you can see in this match here, Lazio against Empoli, we have Dutched a few scorelines, the 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 and 3-0 using £100 stake, which gives us £145 overall outcomes. But of course, we're not letting this run as a bet. We were just going to let it run till the green screen looks like whatever green screen we want to lock in, and then we take the profit. And in this case, we can lock in a profit right now just by cashing out and taking the £84 profit. Actually, when I cash it out, it should be £91 profit over all the outcomes. And then it is just as simple as that. That's a pretty basic Dutch and trade there. Is just we Dutch those score lines. 67 minutes in, it's on the 1-0. We still got a few score lines alive, but we've got a few danger score lines, like the 1-1 was still a possibility if Empoli were to equalise. So depending on what you want and what you want to try and achieve from the trade, it can just be a simple case of, hey, just take the profit and get out of the market. So there's a very, very simple Dutching the correct score market and then trading out example, and there will be more to come in the video. So as you saw there, the most basic approach to Dutching and trading the correct score market, you'd be picking out some sort of target scoreline, and then you'd be covering the target scoreline and several others that are pretty close to that target scoreline as well. So if you don't quite hit it bang on the money, If you get close to it, then you still stand to profit. And then as you saw in the video, we would Dutch it for the same result, no matter which of those actually win. And then at some point during the match, you are going to trade out for an equal profit if you wish. And of course, you could let it run. There are possibilities for that as well, depending on how the match is developing. But Dutching for an equal profit, no matter which of your winners actually wins, is not actually the best way to trade it in play. When you're trading in play, there is actually a slightly better way to approach that, and it is by skewing. And that would mean that you are going to be having different profit amounts on different score lines, so you have more flexibility when you're actually trading in play. Because when we're trading in play, we're not just getting in the market and then hoping for the best. We're not hoping it lands on one of those target score lines. We can take action depending on how the match is developing. But let me jump back on the Betfair interface and show you exactly what I mean by skewing. So we're back here on the Fulham Manchester United correct score market, and I'm going to give you a quick example of how you would skew the correct score market, not necessarily Dutching it. Now, there is a skewing calculator link also in the description of this video if you wanted to mess around and check that out. If you wanted to do this on the Betfair interface, then you are going to need to have the what if function activated in your account. So if you don't have that activated, maybe Google it to make sure how you do it. There is a video on this channel as well which shows you how to do it. So I'm going to show you how to skew. So let's say again that our target score line is 2-0 to Manchester United, but we want to cover the score lines that are around it, and we're going to cover the 2-1. So what we could do is, instead of Dutching it for the same profit on each outcome, we're going to skew it, and we're going to put on, say, 25 on each outcome. And then you can kind of see the situation here. Now, 0-1, £150 a profit. 0-2, £150 a profit. But 0-3 has a bigger green. So, in a way, when we're trading, we could get rewarded for the more goals Manchester United score. And then we've also got some money on the 130 as well. But obviously, we don't have to do it like that. We could skew it any which way we want. If we didn't really think United would win it 0-1, we thought it was more likely to be that target score line, then we could just skew it like that. So we put £15 on 0-1. Now we've got £35 on 0-2. And you see that we've got £50 to play with on the 0-1, and then £250 on the 0-2 and the 0-3. And that's what we're going to be aiming a little bit more for. So you could swap it around as well. You could say, hey, I think United are going to win this 0-1. They're either going to win it 0-1 or they're going to win it easily at 0-3. So we've got 250 on the 0-1, not much on the 0-2, and then a little bit more on the 0-3. So the best thing when you are trading, because we're going to be trading this in play, and that is why skewing is much better, because it gives you much more flexibility with the markets, and you've got a lot more to play around with when you're trading in play, because correct score Dutching and trading is not simple. It's not just get in the market, click a few buttons, wait for a goal, and then cash out for a profit. There's a lot of decisions to be made, but there is also a lot of flexibility at the same time, and there is the opportunity to maybe lay off certain score lines later on and leave bigger profits on other score lines if it ends up on that particular score line. So you've got to keep that in mind. So of course, when you're skewing, you don't necessarily all have to have it in favour of Manchester United. We spoke earlier on about covering the 0-0. I know a lot of people get scared of the 0-0, and you could just play around and just see what could put you in a situation where you're covered with the 0-0. And you can see a £100 stake, if it was to finish 0-0 or close to that, because we are going to be trading out, we've got £100 of profit potential sitting on a 0-0 there just by covering it, and we've got some money on the Manchester United victory there. We could probably cover the 0-0 and then also cover the 1-1. Let me see. For our £100 stake, let's see what happens. Yeah, so you can see that we would be break even on the 0-0. If it hits 1-1, we're going to lose half our stake, which is another option. And then we still got our green results on the other score lines there. So yeah, there is so much you could do. There is so much you could do. You're going to cover your target score lines, which, like we said, is we think Manchester United are going to win this. So we've got that. And you could cover a few danger score lines as well. Just keep in mind, the more score lines you cover, the less profit you have to play with. But there is just a quick example of how you would skew the correct score market. And this is the much preferred approach if you're going to be trading this market in play. So it is the much more preferred approach, but obviously you're going to want to get an idea of knowing which score lines to back and what sort of money you're going to put on which score line and all that sort of thing. So the first thing you always want to do when you are going to decide which score lines to back is forecast the match. So look at the match and decide how is this going to play out. Is this going to be a easy win for the home team? Is this going to be a tight away win? Is this going to be a match where both teams score? Is it likely to be 0-0 for a while, or all that sort of stuff? Look at the match and then just get a quick forecast. And obviously, probably the easier matches to forecast is when you just have a favourite at home. Bayern Munich at home to Schalke, or Liverpool at home to Bournemouth, or something like that. One of those matches where you just expect the home team to win it comfortably, and then you can start to cover a few score lines from there. But then also you need to have a good think about the goal expectancy as well, because you need to know whether you want to skew high or skew low. So if you expect that your target scoreline is, say, 2-0 to the home team, you could skew it low. So you could say, oh, I'm going to back 2-0, but I'm also going to cover 1-0, cover 1-1. I might even cover the 0-0 as well. Or if you could skew it high, you would want to cover the 2-0, but then cover the 3-0 and 3-1 and maybe any other home win, or the higher scoreline. So that's something you need to figure out as well, the goal expectancy for the match. And then obviously from that, you are going to get your target score lines that you can cover. But you also need to keep in mind some danger score lines. Sometimes you might want to cover something like a 0-1, a 1-0 to the underdog. You might want to cover the 0-0 in those eventualities. If you assess the match, you've done all your research, and you say, hey, I expect this team is going to win this, but there is a small danger that this could end 0-0, or it could end a 0-1 or something like that. And you could take insurance on those score lines. And there's so many ways to play it. And I really, really should give you another warning when it comes to Dutching and trading the correct score market. And it is this: the possibilities are limitless. There's so many different scenarios that can play out. There's so many different combinations, possibilities. There's just so much. This is why it suits the more experienced football trader rather than the average newbie, because there's a lot of decisions to be made, not just before the match, but also in play, depending on when the goals are scored, how fast they're scored, how much time is left in the match, how the match is actually playing out. And obviously, like I said, with the possibilities, it's not just backing however many scorelines you want to back. It's how you want to skew it as well. You might want to put more money on a 2-0, less money on a 1-0, all that sort of stuff. There is so many different possibilities. There is not one simple strategy that I could just show you where it's, hey, do this, do that, goal goes in, green it up, because a lot can depend on the timing of the goals as well, as you're going to see, which I think means we should definitely just step into some live trading demonstrations. I've done quite a few different matches, different combinations on the correct score market, just to give you an idea of how it can all play out once these trades go in play. Here's a match from the Scottish Premier League, the Scottish Premiership rather. Just started. Is Celtic against Hibernian, and you can see Celtic really strong favourite in this. And we're expecting Celtic to win this by at least 2 goals. So our target scoreline is the 2-0, but we've also taken cover on the high side of stuff. So we've taken cover on the 2-1, the 3-0, and the 3-1 as well. So it's just gone in play. Markets have just gone suspended. We'll check if that is a goal. But either way, I'm going to give you an update very, very shortly. So 25 minutes on the clock in this one, and so far it's going to plan. Celtic have taken the lead against Hibernian, and they're leading 1-0. And we have, remember, we don't have the 1-0 covered, but the 2-0 is our target scoreline. We've also got some 2-1, 3-0 and 3-1 all covered. So at the moment, our cash out, if we wanted, was £13, £14 just now, as you see. But we're going to go for a bigger profit and see what we can get. So far, so good. It's all going to plan. Celtic 1, Hibernian 0. So here we are. Celtic have just doubled the lead on 65 minutes. So we're on our target scoreline now of the 2-0, and we could lock in a profit of £62. We could just close it with how much? 25 minutes left plus the injury time. Of course, there isn't that much danger. It's a 2-0. We've got 3-0 covered. We've got 3-1 covered. We've got the 2-1 covered. So like I said, with Dutching, there are so many options that you always have, and a lot can depend on how the match is developing. Now, I don't have any live pictures of this particular match, so I am just going to take the profit in this particular occasion. But of course, if I was watching it and I thought it's probably going to stay 2-0 for a bit and maybe Celtic might get a third, then I could probably hang in there, maybe even make that profit even bigger. But just to keep it simple for the video, we're going to take the profit, and we've locked it in there, £64 across every outcome on the correct score market. So Celtic 2, Hibernian 0. We're done at the 66-minute mark. Here's a match from the Scottish Premiership, and it's Aberdeen against Rangers. So from the look of the pre-match research of this one, we've kind of decided we think Rangers are going to win this, but it's not going to be easy. And our target scoreline that we went for was 1-0 to Rangers. Okay, so but what I've done is I've covered the 0-1, which is the 1-0 to Rangers. We've also got 0-2 covered, but we've also got cover on the 1-0 to Aberdeen and the 1-1 and the 1-2 scoreline. So we've got quite a lot of options covered with this one. And I mean, if Rangers score first, then we've got 4 scorelines still alive. And if Aberdeen score first, then we've got 3 scorelines still alive. So in this case, it won't affect us as badly depending on who scores the first goal. But obviously, we much prefer it to be Rangers. So our forecast for this is we think Rangers are going to win it. It's not going to be easy. So we're covered there, and we're covered in the eventuality of maybe a score draw, or maybe even if Aberdeen nick it, which is one of the good things about correct score trading, is that you can cover multiple options. I mean, we are covered on a Rangers win, we're covered on a draw, we're covered on an Aberdeen win as well. So it's just started, 3 minutes in, and I'll give you an update as and when things develop. So we're 22 minutes in on this one, and Rangers have taken the lead. They've taken the lead on this one. And so we're on our target scoreline. Our target scoreline was the 1-0 to Rangers. We tried to take a little bit of insurance on the 1-0 to Aberdeen in case there was a bit of a surprise result. But that scoreline can no longer happen. But so we're alive on the 0-1, the 0-2, 1-1 and 1-2 as well. And because we're on our target scoreline so early in the match, 22 minutes in, we can't take a profit at the moment if we wanted to. We'd have to lock in a small loss of £4.74. So we have to stick with it for the minute. We'll have to stick with it and see what else develops. But 22 minutes in, Aberdeen 0, Rangers 1. Just an example of what can happen when you land on your target scoreline quite early. There isn't a profit straight away. The key thing is not to panic when this happens. Let's see what develops. I'll give you an update very, very shortly. So I did think it wasn't going to be easy for Rangers, and Aberdeen have just equalised. They've just levelled it at 1-1. So that means we are now dead on the 1-0 to Aberdeen. We're dead on the 0-1, and we're dead on the 0-2. So we're left with 2 scorelines that are alive out of this trade, and we've still got a fair bit of the match left. We've still got 60 minutes left to play. So it's going to take us a long while with no more goals for us to even get into a profit in this one. And another goal to Aberdeen completely kills us, and it completely kills our stake. So this is one of those occasions where it would probably be best to just say, hey, do you know what? Let's exit out of the market and just get out of this trade. It's really not going totally to plan. And there you have it. We're just going to get out for it's going to be a £33 loss. Protect the stake. When you're trading the correct score market, 2 early goals and then having only 2 of your score lines left and alive by just the half an hour mark is not the ideal sort of situation. So you're much better served getting out of the trade. But obviously, as I touched upon at the beginning of this video, with Dutching and trading the correct score market, there are so many different possibilities, so many different scenarios, and there's a lot of decision making that needs to be made. Another person might have looked at this and said, oh, I'll hang in there and see what happens. But I think with this, I'm just going to take the safety first approach and take the loss. Take the loss, the 33% of our stake loss. So there you have it. Aberdeen 1, Rangers 1. No profit. We're out with a loss on this one. So this is a match from Italian Serie A. This is Chievo against Roma. You can see Roma 1.58 strong favourites in this one. Chievo sit absolutely rock bottom of Serie A. And all our pre-match research indicates this should be a Roma victory. So we're expecting a Roma victory, and we're also expecting some goals in this one. Now a quick look at some stats shows you that Chievo, when they play at home, there's a bit of a pattern. They always do seem to get on the score sheet. They always do seem to score at least one. And now Roma, when they play away, they're not too great keeping clean sheets recently. So because of this, I've made sure that I've taken good cover on score lines which involve a Roma win but also involve Chievo scoring. So I've got the 1-1 covered just in case it ends up being one of those sticky matches, because we are expecting Chievo to score. But I've also got 1-2 covered and 1-3 covered as well. And then we've got the 0-2 and the 0-3 if it ends up being a routine Roma victory, which it could easily well be as well. So we've got a lot of options, and this is what Dutch trading can do for you when on the football markets, is that we've got a lot of options covered. We're covered if it's comfortable to Roma. We're also covered if it ends up being a little bit sticky. So anyway, this one is just about to kick off, and I'm going to give you an update very soon. Oh, before I do that, I just want to say it's a £100 stake, and I just put £20 on each scoreline to skew it. I haven't even done anything particularly special on this. Just £20 on each scoreline. So yeah, just about to kick off. I'll give you an update once we get underway. So 19 minutes in on this one, there is good news and there is bad news. The good news is Roma are leading as per our forecast, currently 2-0 up and looking pretty comfortable. The bad news is that it's come very, very early in the match, and when you're trading the correct score market, you don't really want too many goals too early on, because obviously if this goes goal crazy, there is the threat that we could lose our stake and we might just have to get out of the market early and even take a loss, despite our forecast being correct. That is just how it works when you're trading the correct score market. So it's 20 minutes in, Chievo 0, Roma 2. We're on our target scoreline. It is 0-2. We've got 0-3 covered. Remember, we also thought Chievo probably going to nick a goal, so we're covered on the 1-2 and the 1-3 scoreline as well. Roma got a free kick into the box and nothing happens from that. So anyway, 2 early goals. Obviously, it's important not to panic when those scenarios come up, and we'll see if we can try and dig a profit out of this one. No more goals before half-time should put us in a pretty strong position. So we were doing pretty good with this one, but Roma have just scored a third goal in the 51-minute mark before we've really had time to even take any sort of action on the correct score market. So, I mean, we've got it right. We've got our forecast right. We thought there was going to be goals. We thought there was going to be a comfortable victory for Roma. But it's all happened just with bad timing, to be honest. And this is what can happen. This is the harsh reality of when you're trading the correct score market, is that sometimes you can be right, but you can be right too soon. So in this case, we're going to try and exit out the market for a scratch trade, because we're pretty exposed at the moment with 38 minutes left and Roma really running riot in this match here. They're looking like they're going to score another goal very soon. So, I do think the best option was to just get out of this and try another trade. But this is to show you what can happen when you're Dutching and trading the correct score market. You can get everything right, the forecast right, the goal expectancy, all that sort of stuff. But if the goals arrive too early, then you could end up like this, not actually making any money at all. So that is something you do need to be prepared for when you're trading the correct score market. So here is Barcelona against Real Madrid, El Clasico, and you can see Barcelona favourites to win this at evens. But Messi is on the bench for this. It seems to be injured. So, I mean, I do think that Barcelona, they're going to win this, but it's probably not going to be one of those comprehensive big Barcelona wins that we often see. So I think this could be a little bit tighter than the markets have suggested. And you can see what I've done here. I decided 2-0 to Barcelona is the target scoreline, but we've taken a bit of cover on the eventuality that Real Madrid maybe spring a bit of a surprise. So we've got 1-0 to Barcelona, we've got 2-0 to Barcelona, we've also got 2-1 to Barcelona, but we're covered as well with the 1-1 and the 2-2. I mean, when these guys play, there is usually quite a few goals. So we'll see how this one develops. We've got a lot of options covered in Barcelona's favour, and it's just about to kick off. So I'll give you an update as and when things develop in this. As you can see, just gone half time in this now. Barcelona 0, Real Madrid 1. And at the moment, we could get out if we didn't like the look of this for the £28 of loss. But we still got the 1-1, the 2-1, and the 2-2 scorelines still alive. So we've still got 3 of the 5 scorelines still alive. So there's no reason to get out just yet. Goal for Barcelona really puts us back into the profit territory with this. So we're heading into the second half. We're going to need something to happen. We are going to need Barcelona to score. We are still running the risk that Real Madrid double the lead, and then our stake is completely dead. But hey, that is it. That is part and parcel of correct score trading. So we're going to stick with it until at least around 60, 70 minutes and see how the match develops. But at halftime, it is Barcelona 0, Real Madrid 1. 60 minutes in, and as expected, we got the Barcelona equaliser. It's been a bit of a crazy match. There's been, obviously, as you would expect in these El Clásicos, it has been end to end, and it's been looking like it's just full of goals. So as it stands, our cash out amount is the £17, and we're on one of our target scorelines here, the 1-1. We've also got 2-1, and we've also got 2-2 alive. I did make a mistake earlier on when I said if it goes to 0-2, then we're dead. Obviously, not quite, because we still have the 2-2. And you can see Messi is about to come on for Barcelona as well. So I don't see any reason to take any sort of any action just yet. I think we should just let it keep going for another 10 minutes and see where we end up. We're on one of our target scorelines. We've got a bigger green on the 2-1 and an even bigger one on the 2-2 as well. So let's let this play out and we'll see how it develops. Barcelona 1, Real Madrid 1, 61 minutes played. So here we are, 78 minutes in on this one. It is still 1-1. And we're approaching the final 10 minutes. It's probably time to just take the profit. I mean, Barcelona have been by far the better team, but we do have that danger now. If it does go to 2-1 to Real Madrid, we could be then hoping that it goes to 2-2 after that. So I'm going to try and take the profit, but it's always sensible to try and lock in the profit around this time of the match before all these prices do start going all over the place, and it gets very hard to cash out. As you know, in the final 10 minutes, you start to get drifts all over the place. So I'm just going to try and even that out for what should hopefully be a £45 profit. Yep, so in the end, 45% return on our £100 stake, which is not bad considering we had such a bad start to this match with an early goal and a goal to the team we weren't really favouring on the correct score market. So it could have ended up being a lot worse. But we've done quite well out of this one. We're going to lock in £45 of profit. Just going to sit back and watch the rest of the match from here. So, just a good example just to show you that when the early goal goes in and it goes in against you, you just got to hold your head and see what happens. Sometimes that early goal can freak you out. You might just want to abandon the trade or whatever, but sometimes you just got to stick with it and roll with it. So, here we are. Barcelona 1, Real Madrid 1, £45 profit locked in there. And of course, you can get involved in the second half if you wish. My advice, if you're getting involved in the second half of Dutching the correct score market, is you have to pick lower amount of scores. So I would suggest probably around 3 is a good number to pick. The more you pick, then the more you dilute your potential profits. But it is easier, obviously, to predict the final score when it is half time, because there's only 45 minutes left to get through. So in this match, we're going to cover the 1-0, the 2-0, and the 1-1 in this. We're going to use a £100 stake, and I'm going to split the money around. Like I said, I'm not going to Dutch it. I'm going to skew it slightly. So we've got £46 on 1-0 to QPR. Hold on. Let me just put that in the market. £46 on 1-0 to QPR, but we've got much bigger rewards on the bigger score lines as well. So we've got something a bit more juicy to play with when the goals do arrive. So ideally in this situation, the first goal being scored going to QPR is really good. The first goal going to Portsmouth puts us in a little bit of bother, but we still have the 1-1 covered. So anyway, this one's 46 minutes in, QPR 0, Portsmouth 0, and we want a goal to QPR with this. So 73 minutes on the clock, and the goal has arrived, the goal we wanted as well, the goal to QPR. And it's quite good timing for that goal, because it's mean that all the prices we've backed have moved in considerably, the 1-0, the 1-1 and the 2-0. So we do have lots of options, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to keep it simple for the benefit of the video and cash out and lock in the profit. But we do have lots of options. Now I should be able to green this out for £100 across all outcomes. Let me try that. I mean, that is one thing you have to think about with when you're trading the correct score market, is it can be awkward to cash out of with so many prices moving all over the place. But yeah, I mean, we did have lots of options. One of our other options could have been to just let it roll, knowing that we've got 1-0 to QPR covered. We do have 1-1 covered, and we did have 2-0 covered, and we had bigger profits sitting on the 1-1 and the 2-0. Which, if a goal came quite late, we could have locked in an even bigger profit. So that is one of your options there. We do have an option as well. If we keep an eye on the match, we could lay this 1-0 scoreline and put a bit of extra profit on the other scoreline. So if there is another goal, we're going to make a little bit more. So if we were to just lay now 1-0 with £50, that would leave us meaning we're going to make £64 if it remains how it is. But if there is another goal, we'd make £150. And all right, speak of the devil, there you go. There is another goal to QPR. So, hey, wish I laid it now, right? But anyway, like I said, I'm just trying to keep this as simple as possible. We've got in the market, we got the goal we wanted, we cashed out for an equal profit. But with Dutching, with Dutching the correct score market, there are so many different options available to you. So, yeah, you've seen a pretty good example of Dutching and trading the correct score market in the second half. QPR 2, Portsmouth 0. And here's another one from the second half. Again, involved at half-time in this one. This is Porto, very, very strong favourites away to Moreirense in the Portuguese league. So it's 0-0 at half-time, and we're fully expecting Porto are actually going to win this. So we've covered 0-1 to Porto, 0-2. We've also taken a little bit of cover on the 1-0 scenario to the home team. So ideally, we want Porto to score. And what you can see is I put a little bit more money. Well, I say a little bit more. A lot more money on the 0-1 than on the 0-2. Because obviously, we know that the 0-1 is going to keep steaming in, or it's going to remain static at least in the second half. So we want to try and weight the majority of our profit on the 0-1. And if Porto can take the lead, we're also in a situation where we've got some money to lay off. Okay, this is obviously where it gets a little bit more advanced and maybe a little bit too advanced for this beginner's video, but this is just another alternative way to Dutch and trade the correct score market. As we touched upon, the possibilities are endless. But we've got the 0-1 covered, a lot of money weighted on there, and we're going to stick with this one. And we're going to try and probably, with the correct score trading, I mean, it's £100 risk in the market. One goal either way, which should put us green. So you could suggest to stay, to say I want to stay in till the final whistle. It all depends on how the match is developing. But we'll see how this one goes. It's Moreirense 0, Porto 0 at half time. Hopefully we get a goal to Porto, and then we can just get some profits. So 69 minutes on the clock in this one. It is still 0-0, and Porto obviously really dominating and really pushing for the goal. Haven't broken the deadlock just yet, but I just want to show you that although we haven't had the goal, the market hasn't really moved against us too much, and that's because of the 0-1, the amount of money I put on the 0-1 there. So at the moment, we could just get out for a £6 loss and call it a day if we did want to, if we wanted to change our mind with this trade. But for the purposes of the video, I'm going to stick with it because Porto is still pushing and pushing and pushing, as you would expect. So we'll stick with it. And obviously, we are covered on the 1-0 to Moreirense as well. So a goal either way would actually be a good thing for us with this. But I just wanted to highlight the cash out amount and how the market hasn't moved that much against us, which is one of the benefits of trading the correct score markets like this. If we had laid the draw in this, then the market would be moving rapidly against us as time ticks on and on and on. So it's just another observation for you guys there. But anyway, we'll see if we can get a goal in this one, and I'll give you an update very, very shortly. So 80 minutes on the clock, and we've had a goal, and it's not gone the way we expected. It's gone as the shock to Moreirense, and they've taken a lead 1-0. So the insurance scoreline that we took, the danger scoreline, the 1-0, is going to kick in, and we're going to have to exit out of the market and Usually, I mean, it would be something like a scratch trade or maybe a small loss when that comes up. But in this case, we're actually going to take a little profit on this one, the £16. So remember, we entered this trade expecting Porto to win this, expecting Porto to take the lead. And they haven't done that. Morienzi has been the one who's taken the lead. So by skewing the correct score bets the way we did, we covered 1-0 to Morienzi, 0-1 and 0-2. We still got out of this unscathed and actually made a small profit. So it kind of shows you how correct score Dutching can be good. I mean, in all these examples, you've seen the pros, you've seen the cons. You've seen what can go right and what can go wrong, and you can kind of see the possibilities that are available when you are trading the correct score market, exactly like this. So this one is Everton against Manchester City from the Premier League. Manchester City, very, very hot favourites, and we are expecting a Man City victory in this one. And our target scoreline is 2-0 to Manchester City. So you can see what I've backed here. I've backed the 2-0 to Manchester City, and I've gone in favour of potentially more goals. So we've gone for the high side of it. So I've covered 0-2, 0-3. We're also covered on the 1-2 and the 1-3 as well. So we've got, how many score lines is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 score lines covered. And it's all pretty much in favour of the Manchester City win. So it's just kicked off. I'll give you an update as and when things develop in this. Half time in this one, Everton 0, Manchester City 1. So all going to plan at the moment. Manchester City scored right on the half time whistle. So at the moment, Manchester City leading 0-1 on this. Now remember, we don't have the 0-1 covered. We're expecting a 2-goal win, and 2-0 to Man City is what our target scoreline is. So I mean, we're at least halfway there. As you can see, if we did want to get out, we could take that green there of £23. But we've got bigger profit targets in mind. So as it stands, all is going well. We just need one more goal to get onto at least our target score lines of 0-2, 0-3, 1-2 and 1-3. So ideal scenario would be another Man City goal, maybe around the 60th minute or the 70th minute, or something like that. And then we should be able to cash out for a nice profit. But anyway, here we are. So far so good. Everton 0, Man City 1. Alright, so we are going to get out of the market on this one. Everton have a pretty dangerous free kick, which I don't really want to hang around for. And we're just going to have to take the loss on this one. It's going to be a loss of around £35, so 35% of our stake. 81 minutes, we weren't on our target scorelines. We had how many scorelines there, and we weren't matched on any of those. So when it goes that way, you have to just accept the loss. And we don't want to stay in the market because, I mean, yeah, of course, Man City could double this lead very late on, and then we would win that. But remember, we're trading. We're not having a bet. If we're having a bet, we would just leave it, right? So we have to be disciplined enough to take the loss. And here it is, a £35 loss on this one. Everton 0, Man City 1. Close, but no cigar. So that is just about it for all the live trades in this one. And funnily enough, in that Manchester City-Everton match, Manchester City did win 2-0. They scored very, very late with the last kick of the ball, which kind of shows you that if we were to have Dutched that match and just left it, we would have had a winner. But when we were trading it, we had to trade out because the goals simply didn't arrive in the time window we were looking for. So it shows you the pros and cons. I think in all those examples, you've seen a lot of the pros and the cons for this approach to football trading. And this is what this video is here for. It's here for you to decide if it's something that you want to try and experiment with. So I do want to give you a few more important things to think about when you do want to get involved with Dutching and trading the correct score market. And the number one thing I do definitely want to say is always check that there isn't a more simple trade available to do. If you forecast the match and you think that team A is going to win for whatever reason, then it might just be more simple to back that team in the match odds market. So you do have to weigh that up, because obviously the correct score market can get pretty complex. There's a lot of stuff happening. And as you saw again in the Roma example, I mean, we expected Roma to win that match. And if we had just looked to maybe the match odds market, maybe we wouldn't have got as much value out of it or whatever, but we might have just had a more simple and straightforward trade, and we might have just had the winning trade there. We wouldn't have had to have got out for a scratch. So always just check there isn't a more simple trade available. You only really want to be getting involved in the correct score market if you think it can increase the value and increase the profits that you can potentially make. One other tip I would say is to set your maximum risk before the match. A lot of newbies make this mistake of getting involved with the correct score market, backing a few scores, then it ends up on whatever scoreline at half time. And instead of saying, okay, this isn't going my way, I'm going to get out and protect my stake, they start backing even more scores. And as you know, with this video, as I've demonstrated, the more score lines you back, the lower your profit goes. So you're just chasing and chasing and chasing, putting more and more money in the market for less and less money, which does not make sense. And you might get away with it once, you might get away with it twice, but eventually the markets will swallow you up and you will not survive very long with that sort of approach. So whenever you want to trade the correct score market, always set your maximum risk before the match. So if it's £100, then you could do something like starting with backing enough score lines with, say, £50 before the match, and then add in the £50 if you need to in play when certain scenarios develop. So that's something to keep in mind. And I mean, based on that, always try and protect your stake when possible. So like we saw with the Aberdeen Rangers example, that was too goal crazy too quickly in that match, and I think it ended up 4-2 or something like that. So we definitely would have lost our whole stake if we stuck with that match. So if it's not quite going your way, protect your stake and trade out for a smaller loss. And on that note, at the same time, do be mentally prepared to lose your stake, because there could be times when the goals just fly in too quickly and you can't do anything about it, and you might lose your stake from time to time, which again is more and more reason why you need to try and maximize those wins whenever possible. Another good tip for the correct score market is also to be aware of liquidity. You probably only really want to use the correct score market on the top level football matches, the top level leagues, the Premier League, Spanish League, German League, Serie A. I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. As just a small rule of thumb, you probably want at least 5k matched in the correct score market before kickoff, but the more the better, really. And you can't really expect to use 4-figure stakes in the correct score market unless it is highly liquid. Something like the World Cup is a good example of that. So that's something to be aware of. I mean, there is some limitations as well to scaling on the correct score market. If you are wanting to use 4-figure, 5-figure stakes, then yeah, you're going to have a hard time and a bit of a struggle cashing out from time to time when that happens. So do be aware of that. And also definitely have modest expectations with the correct score market. I think a big problem many newbies have is they see those high prices, the high odds that are available in the correct score market, and they expect that they could go in with a £10 stake and maybe make £1,000 profit or something like that. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I do see a lot of newbies expecting wild profits from the correct score market, when sometimes you have to be a little bit more conservative. And there will be times from time to time when everything goes right and you land on a score line at the precise time where you can lock in a really nice profit. But the majority of the time, it's going to be a pretty average trade, and it will be very similar to what you saw in all those live trading demos. But anyway, that is about it. I want to thank you for making it this far in this video. And if you haven't downloaded this already and you want to trade the correct score market on Betfair, then the link is in the description. The link is in the description to download this. Also in the description, you're going to find a link to a blog post, which will have the links to all the online calculators. So just go check that out. If you want to find the actual Dutching calculator and the skewing calculator and kind of mess around with a few combinations, then it's there. You can knock yourself out with that. So link is in the description. That is below the video. Just scroll down and I'm sure you'll find it. I'll also leave the link in the comments for you guys as well. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then do hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and you'll be the first to know when any new videos are uploaded. And also, while you're there, why not watch another video? There's a new video there and also another video there, which are just as good as this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.